How did communism influence May 60? How did communism influence the May 1968 protests in France? This question takes us into a fascinating period of social and political upheaval. The May 1968 protests were not just student demonstrations. They were a massive uprising that challenged the established order. The French Communist Party, known as the PCF, played a complex role during this time. Initially, the PCF was cautious and skeptical of the student protesters. They viewed the students as too radical and disconnected from the working class struggle. The students were raising issues like sexual liberation and university bureaucracy, which the PCF did not fully embrace. At first, the Communist Party and its allied labor union, the General Confederation of Labor, tried to keep the workers separate from the students. They feared that the unrest might spiral out of control and lead to a revolution that they could not manage. However, as the protests grew and the confrontations with police intensified, the PCF began to change its stance. They recognized the legitimacy of the student movement and saw an opportunity to unite students and workers. This shift allowed the PCF and the General Confederation of Labor to call for a nationwide strike. They encouraged workers to join the students in the streets, leading to one of the largest general strikes in French history. Millions of workers participated, bringing the country to a standstill. This collaboration transformed the protests from a student revolt into a broader social movement. Despite this newfound alliance, the Communist Party was careful to avoid a full-scale revolution. They aimed to channel the unrest into more controlled political action. The PCF sought to replace President Charles de Gaulle's government through elections rather than radical upheaval. The leadership was wary of the spontaneous and anti-authoritarian spirit of the students. Many students were critical of traditional communist structures and wanted more radical change. In summary, communism influenced May 60 by initially opposing the student protests, then cautiously supporting the workers' strike, but ultimately trying to moderate the revolutionary potential of the uprising. The Communist Party's involvement broadened the movement from a student protest to a massive social demonstration involving workers. However, it also acted as a restraint on the more radical elements that sought to overturn the entire political system. This dynamic reflects the tensions within the left during the 1960s, as established communist parties faced a new wave of youthful activism that defined the May 1960 protests.